Welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be diving into the details about the Smuggler's Heist. There's a lot to talk about that. I'm going to go into some details about how that's actually going to work, how it may feel, and just what to expect with this next coming event. It is the update that is also bringing us an FOV slider that is greater than 90. Can you imagine something like that? All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. But before we get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They're the ones that are supporting this content by going over to patreon.com/Keelhauled Podcast to show their support. If it wasn't for them this month, I would not have a PC. Because I probably wouldn't have been able to get the money. Well, I would have probably had spent the money, but I didn't have to worry about that because my power supply went out during the move. I am eternally grateful to them for this, and it really means a lot to me that they did so. So I like to shout them out on the podcast to let them know that I appreciate them by name. So thank you to A-Chick, L Cute, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Captain Longsharts, Chateau Neuf, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Godhammer 6, Carl Embo of Embo Family Gaming, Kylia the Aficionado, Nightstar 1980, Elvin Vramir, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Ors, Xbox Mike 29, Norwegian, Rabid Raccoon, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Ribloid, Rustbelt Kid, Sea Leg Sam, Shoe Daddy 13, Scameld 666, Tales of the Sea, The Demon Jester, Tommy D, TN Professor, TN Professor. I don't know why I stopped on that one. Wailing Witch, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Hager Owl, Jeff H, Captain Duckweed, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, and Zam. Wow. Thank you all so much for your support. It really does actually pay for the bills, believe it or not. And if I get an opportunity, I will probably start nest egging some of the money either for SoTFest or for a backup mixer, because I worry that one day my poor little Go XLR is just going to go kaput, and I'm going to have to figure that out in a hot minute. So thank you so much for the support. It really does help. It really does mean the world to me. And yeah, looking forward to, we got that community one that's coming up on, I think it's actually going to be the 27th of September. So just a heads up on that one. 27th of September, next Gold Hoarder episode. First on today's docket, let's talk about FOV. If you're not familiar with FOV, then I don't blame you. You may not be paying close attention to what acronyms are, but it is called Field of View. Now, Sea of Thieves has been capped at 90 degrees of a field of view for basically the entirety of its existence. A lot of players have gone and edited files in the game to try and expand that to give them an opportunity to be able to view more of the world while playing the game. Now, there are a lot of reasons why this is both a good and a bad thing. Being able to see more gives more information to players to be able to assess situations better, especially in combat, which can be a combat advantage. And if that is not something that is offered across the board, then that tends to be something that, well, you're kind of exploiting the game in a way that was not intended. That has always been kind of an issue, but Rare nowadays seems to be taking in a lot more player feedback, a lot more player concerns when it comes to what they're doing with the game, which means that what was old is still old and what is now is the new. And if that wasn't any more obvious of a statement, I can just let you know field of view is getting increased. Now, they're not going too crazy with this. And a lot of that is because of the way that they've developed the game. When you increase the field of view, you're effectively pulling the camera back and widening the scope of what you can see. And that can cause some issues. If you don't plan on building a game that shows your character at a specific degree, when you're looking at the field of view, you may start clipping the camera into stuff that you didn't anticipate. And that can cause issues. It can break the immersion, and it can, for all intents and purposes, just look bad. And we have seen some of that with some of the clips and stuff that have come out where people are increasing the FOV to 125, 140, and some really just odd and general numbers that people feel like they want to have to be able to see as much as they can. When you start to increase it too much, what starts happening is you start getting this bending around the edges of the screen. They tend to call that a fisheye lens because it's kind of a rounded feeling, and it kind of, again, breaks the immersion. What field of view can do is it can serve as an accessibility feature. Opening up the view of what you're looking at can sometimes help with that kind of corridor tunnel vision that, if you move around too quickly, can sometimes cause motion sickness. So generally, having a wider field of view can help alleviate that by providing more information to your eyes, which means that movements are less severe and can stop messing with that kind of equilibrium balance in your mind, that you have that physical disconnect between what you're feeling with your body and what your body is telling you you're experiencing versus what your eyes are telling your brain is experiencing. And it's all very interesting to kind of dig into if you ever wanted to get into it. But at the core base of this is a big win for people in general. Having availability for higher FOV, even if it's just 20 degrees, can help improve people's gameplay experience. Now, I have gone into Insiders and I've played around a little bit with this just to kind of get an idea of how it feels. Now, you may be wondering, okay, well, where is this going to benefit me? Generally in the open world, it's not really going to benefit you when you're looking at a voyage, when you grab a cannon, when you grab the helm, or any kind of interact on a ship. That's not really going to impact your experience, because even when you go to grab onto the helm, or you grab onto a tack iron where the sails are tied to, or a cannon, you are generally going to have a zoom in effect. And that effect is actually going to be a little more significant when you have that 110 degrees, which means that if you're at the standard 90, you'll get a little zoom. It'll zoom in the way it typically does. And you're probably pretty used to that. You may not even notice that that is something that even happens. And when you switch over to 110 degrees for that field of view, and you see that larger significant sweep in with the zoom, that might actually be a little disorienting. I know it was for me at the start. And I think this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to have to get used to. It's kind of like switching hotkeys on your controller or keyboard. It's going to have some muscle memory effects, and you're going to have to retrain yourself, and your brain is going to have to retrain itself to expect that motion. Once you have that kind of built in, and it could take a day, it could take a week, you may never actually get used to it, and you might have to bump the field of view back down. But once your brain has adjusted, as humans are really good at doing, you will get back to normal. It won't feel weird, and you'll start to wonder, how did I ever live without this? Some of the places that I have seen the field of view opening up being a boon are slightly odd situations. These aren't going to be things that you really pay too close attention to, but being able to see stuff out of the corner of your eye, whether it be a glint or whether it be an enemy or a rustle in the leaves, things like that are going to help out. It was interesting to me, and I think this was one of the tests that I was curious about the most, even though it was a weird way of saying that, was when you pick up a cargo crate. Now, I'm talking about the cargo crates that you take from place to place, and specifically the plants, because as we know, Rare likes to troll us in fun ways, and the plants that you pick up in cargo runs really do kind of obscure your vision. And there's a lot of intent with that. They want you to have to pick up and drop the plants from time to time to be able to see where you're going, unless you just have exceptional muscle memory and you happen to know an island back to front, front and back, side to side, and you know exactly where to run to be able to take that cargo from wherever you're picking it up, say like the tavern, and you're using just enough image or just enough information from the image that you can get around the plants to help guide you, because you're so familiar with the island that you know that if you turn around from the inside of the tavern, you have a table. So you kind of sidestep the table and you walk out the door. Lorinna's to your left, and you're using kind of that small bits of information that you're getting visually to help guide where you're going to be. Otherwise, you just drop it, take a look around, get a gauge on where you need to move, and you move in that direction after picking it back up. With having 110 field or FOV, you're not going to be able to see the plant as a small little plant that you will be able to look over the top of, but you will actually start to be able to see a little bit higher than the actual top of the plant. You're going to increase that sense of information that you can gather, and it's going to make running around with cargo plants a little bit easier. Not a lot, but definitely something that's going to feel less frustrating, especially if you don't like them in the first place. That's kind of the main thing that I've really noticed with the FOV slider. Now, it remains to be seen how this is going to feel. I think a lot of people's muscle memories with weapons, especially the cracked players out there that are looking forward to the increase in the FOV, are going to have to get used to this change. And it may not feel like a change that most people will ever pay attention to, but there is a subsect of people out there who are very particular about the degrees of field of view that they use. Some people like 90, some people are 100, some people like 110, some people like 115, some people like 135. It really does depend on the individual, how they process the information that they're seeing and how that affects their gameplay, how they aim, where they aim, the flick that they need when they're moving their mouse. All of those are important when coming into combat with a situation that involves your field of view. And if that changes or doesn't feel straight, you do have to go in and tweak it. Now, people are going to find their best setting, and I encourage you to switch between the two just to get an idea of how it feels and see if that's something that you think is a boon to you. But if it starts making you feel uncomfortable or nauseous, maybe switch it back to what you're familiar with and kind of bump your way up as if you were gauging out your earrings or something like that. You know, go little steps at a time and not necessarily a huge jump at once. Maybe go from 90 to 100, play for a week, play for a few sessions, see how that makes you feel. If you feel fine, bump it up a little higher. Do you see a benefit? Is there a reason? Does it break the immersion? And tweak with the settings. It's an opportunity to explore a realm where you may not necessarily get to. And while I don't think that Sea of Thieves is maybe implementing this in the best way possible, they are doing, in what I feel like, a good job of trying to address some of the questions and concerns that the community has about how the game is going to be developed and looking for solutions that they can immediately work on. And I think that this is something that a lot of people have been asking for. It's not the 120 that I think a lot of people want, but I do think that it is a good step. And I think that capping it at 110 will help kind of reinforce the feel of Sea of Thieves, if that makes sense. It's a hard thing to describe, but when you go much higher than 110, you tend to get too much of that fisheye look. And that's fine if you're playing Call of Duty. You got to spin around and see people popping around corners from the corners of your eye, and you just feel like an owl half the time anyway. But for Sea of Thieves, they want to have a sense of you being a character or a person in that world, and the experience you have is something that is personal to you. So they want that kind of first-person perspective. It's something that's been ingrained in them since the development of the game when they decided to go first-person as opposed to third-person, where it feels more disconnected from the player or the person that you're playing. You don't feel like you're truly experiencing it on your own. You feel like you're playing a character who is experiencing it in a game. So field of view is a very interesting thing that they're bringing into this. I'm very happy that they are being malleable with their decisions. It remains to be seen where they go from here. What's the next big obstacle that has been on the community's mind for a long time that they've been asking for? And I think that we have a couple of those in the pipeline already. Things like fleets that are coming to safer seas, private servers. We've had additional pirates added to with the pirate profile. And they're just kind of going through some of these long-standing community requests and taking a look at what's feasible and what's not. If I had to venture a guess, I would not be surprised if Xbox One support was next on that list. People asking, please discontinue support for the Xbox One. We are currently 5 years into the current generation of consoles, and the manufacturers themselves are currently looking at what the next generation of hardware is going to be. In fact, Xbox is even releasing a new version of their hardware in the form of the Xbox Ally in a partnership with ROG Ally, Republic of Gaming. They produce handhelds, and Xbox has commissioned, in a way, a version of their hardware or a version of their software to operate solely on these Xbox Allies. Now, you're going to get access to other stores as well too, but the intent here is that these are something that are going to be kind of a second party agreement with ROG Ally. This is just the first step. Most likely by 2027 or 2028, Xbox will be releasing their next line of hardware. And looking at Sea of Thieves, given that it was released in 2018, we are swiftly coming up to that 10-year goal that Sea of Thieves had for their game. It remains to be seen what happens, but considering Rare is now without Everwild, they have some developers to focus on Sea of Thieves, or potentially start up a smaller team for their next project. Who knows what the future of Sea of Thieves will hold, but looking at the list of features that communities have been requesting for a very, very long time, and seeing Rare address those one-to-one as they move through this list, tells me that they are thinking about the future of Sea of Thieves, whether it goes into what would best be described as a status mode, or a stasis mode, where all development is essentially ended and support has discontinued. They're no longer doing seasons. They're no longer updating the game outside of maybe addressing some balance or bug fixes that they can, and leaving the game sustaining on servers through Microsoft indefinitely. And not infinitely, but indefinitely. We don't necessarily know if they would ever turn them off. But I do imagine a time where Rare will want to move on to the next project. In the interview that I did with Mike Chapman back in last June, it was clear that the teams need to be shifted from one project to the other within the scope of Sea of Thieves, trying out different ways of introducing content, whether it be tall tales, mysteries, adventures, story elements that get added as native content to the world that is just kind of discovered, or whether they're working on new voyages or cosmetics. They're always looking for ways to keep the team invested in making content for Sea of Thieves that is not necessarily just the same old that we've been getting for a long time. So looking at things like the private servers, looking at things like Safer Seas with fleets, looking at FOV slider, and then imagining what we're going to be getting in the future, it's clear to me that Rare could be on the steps, the path that they want to be, to either have a stronger communication line with their community to better address the things that the community is asking for, as opposed to guessing, taking a bet, and gambling on building content that may or may not work out for what the community wants or even asked for. And I'll point to the Smugglers League as this kind of thing plays out. This is not necessarily, I think, what the community was expecting or even actually asking for. I think that there are a lot of lore fiends out there who would happily take more story about the Grand Maritime Union, Flameheart, Pendragon, the Brotherhood coming back, Duke, trying to figure out how to get Merrick to, do something. I don't know. Find out more history about Bell in general. Maybe go back and even finish up properly what Briggsy's story was in those adventures. There's lots. Pirate's Life 2. I think there's a lot that the community have been invested in story-wise that they would like to see outside of Smugglers League. So it's always interesting for me to kind of take a look and see like what's going on in Sea of Thieves, where Rare feels like their attention needs to be paid, and seeing certain things like this, like the FOV slider, always makes me feel very proud of the team for head-on addressing stuff that the community has been asking for. If they're looking at how people are getting from place to place, and they're using exploits to get to places faster. That speaks to how they feel about ship combat. If the consumers are sitting there frustrated that they can't catch up with a ship, then there needs to be an addressal of the number of ships on a server because they don't feel like they're able to get enough combat in there, or that the sailing themselves doesn't feel intuitive or make enough sense that they feel like they can actually get there. Now, I'm not going to make excuses for funny launching because I didn't like funny launching. I don't even know if it's still in the game. It wouldn't surprise me if it is. But I do understand the reason why people did that, because they wanted to get other ships, which means that the combat that they're getting in is so infrequent that they're willing to look at exploits to try and ensure that they can get an engagement. And that speaks on a larger scale to how players are feeling about the game. Now, same thing kind of applies with duping. I don't approve of duping items. I don't approve of people doing that in the game. I think it destroys the sense of going and doing something, but I also recognize that people are doing it for a reason. Now, what that reason may be is going to vary, but it definitely speaks to an issue. And I hope that Rare takes a look at not the symptoms, but the root cause of the problem and tries to address that in a way that helps kind of dissuade people from trying to do exploits like that. You know, you want to look at and try and boil down the essence of why are you doing it and try and find a way to build around that. I think the Cannon of Rage is a tool that most people don't really want to use anymore. I don't see a whole lot of folks using it because for all intents and purposes, if you want to use it, not only is it very time limited in what you can and can't do, there's a lot of waiting that you have to be able to utilize it, which means that generally you're only going to be able to get off 2 to 4 shots on a Cannon of Rage to be able to capitalize on that before having to run or having to chase or figure something out. And having that thing deployed means that you are susceptible to taking damage from other players who are able to explode it. So there's a risk there, which means that a lot of people don't think that the risk is worth the benefit. And that's where I think a balance pass needs to go in and address, why are people not using this? Why are more people invested in using the Horn of Fair Winds and having those on top deck next to the helm? And is that because the one blunder is gone, or they don't like the way traps work, or that the blunder bomb is too fickle for people, and that harpoons have given players enough tools to be able to re-engage with getting on board a ship that it doesn't feel fair unless they are using a Horn of Fair Winds to blow people away from their ship, to not be able to re-engage with a harpoon. And having those on there is quite the gamble, but it's less of a gamble if you're able to keep people off your ship than it is a Cannon of Rage to chop down the masts of the ship that's chasing you. So it's always kind of interesting to take a look at these things and see, where is Rare spending their time? In this case, I think FOV is a very warranted reason for them to actually go in and tinker with the game. Do I think that they've implemented it well based on what I played on Insiders, which is not final, but final enough considering next week is this week technically is the launch of the update. I don't know that I agree with all the choices that they've made. And I think the concern there lies with how much zoom there is when interacting with objects around the ship and items that you pick up to inspect, like voyages and stuff like that. Going from 110 to whatever the zoomed in version is when looking at a voyage was slightly jarring. And that's concerning because I don't know if that's a thing that is going to prohibit me from being able to use the higher FOV slider, or if I just need to give it some time to actually adjust, let my mind kind of retrain itself around that. And much like the whole change to the barrel system or storage crates or adding a Cannon of Rage to your ship's arsenal, it's going to take time, execution, and practice. You have to have time to be able to put it on your ship or to play around with it. You have to get comfortable with how to execute it. And then you have to practice on top of that to make sure that it's a repetition. It's a muscle memory that you're building. So I hope everyone gives it a chance when it comes out and doesn't lambaste it in the first 24 hours before they've truly given it an opportunity to adjust. And this is not me trying to play customer service for Rare. You didn't just buy a mattress and I'm telling you to give it a month to sleep in because it's killing your back on the first 3 days. I'm just saying that every change in the game like these are going to take some kind of mental gymnastics to get around, to mentally work around that. Give yourself that patience, and definitely try not to engage in combat until something like an FOV change feels comfortable, feels natural. The last thing I want for people to do is get into hourglass matches to try and get champion after they've just changed the FOV slider because Fuzzy Bond or Falcor put up a video, or Hippo put a video out there, or, Beard again put out a video that said, this is going to be a game changer for Hourglass. And that spurred a wave of people feeling extra confident that that FOV slider is going to make up for the skill gap that they're feeling in Hourglass. So that's my cautionary statement. Hopefully you guys take it into account, tinker around with it, have fun with it, and don't feel obligated to go to 110 if it doesn't make sense for you. Next up on today's docket, let's cover the Smuggler's Heist. This is the month-long event that is going to be going on with Sea of Thieves for the next update. It is coming on September 18th, which is just 4 days away as of the time that I'm recording this, and is going to run until I believe it's the middle of October. So what is the expectation here? Well, there is the Act 2 version of the seasonal content that's coming in. And basically what it's asking you to do is go out and, well, do the event. You only really have to do it once, but when you do it, you'll want to make sure to grab at least one more painting, as some of the requirements there are going to ask you to complete one of these events to win it and to turn in one painting that was not the target painting. I find this really interesting because the bar here is pretty low. They're not really asking you to do a whole lot. One thing I will recommend you do is write down a quick little list of the name of each smuggler and what island they're on. And that's mostly because, for all intents and purposes, you're going to have to turn this painting in to one of the smugglers. Now, it's not going to be the same smuggler each time, and it's not going to be the same painting each time. So you'll want to start brushing up on what some of the names are, as well as who you have to take them to. So how do you get into this? Well, you are going to be going to your ship and taking a look to see if you can find the smuggler's note on the mast. This is taking the place of the Siren Skull and is starting to be a trend with Sea of Thieves as they are looking to take advantage of the seasonal content by removing content that is currently in game until the season itself is kind of over. If you've been running around trying to find messages in a bottle that give you crates or voyage quests for crates, those have been pretty much non-existent. Every single bottle in the sea is basically a smuggler's run right now. So much like with the Siren Skull voyage, I hope you have gotten those knocked out. Otherwise, you're going to have to put those on a little bit of a hiatus, at least until after the next month update. And with this, it's very interesting. You'll go and you'll accept it. There's no real fanfare and nobody appears on your ship, as far as I know, to kind of explain what to do next. And you're going to have to take the voyage and actually read the voyage. So apologies there. The good news is that what I've been able to see is that every single time you grab it, you're effectively going to be sent to Smuggler's Bay and go talk to Solomon. Now, Solomon will give you a key to Royal Crest Fortress. And I gotta say, just based on what I've seen, I actually really like this key. This key feels like an ashen version of the Goonies key that was used for, being able to open up the, oh gosh, what was it? The skeleton bone organ. They had a couple uses, and then I think that for that movie, it's been a while since I've seen Goonies. Maybe I need to go back and watch Goonies again. But they had the skeleton key where you had to kind of like fit the little stones through the eyes and the nose of the skeleton. Feels very similar to one of those, and I like it. I think it's probably the first time I've seen a skeleton key or a key that looks like an actual key that isn't just one of the little keys that you have for the chests, or for some reason a random circle disc thing that you shove into a door at a fort, which never made sense. But I mean, not a lot does in Sea of Thieves, so I really can't fault them for that in that case. But I like this key. And once you get the key, you'll be sent to Royal Crest Fortress, where you'll be greeted by a slightly revamped version of Royal Crest Fortress. It's the first facelift any of the sea forts have gotten since their introduction back in, gosh, what was it? February a couple of years ago? Was it 2024? I think we got, or no, wait. Oh yeah. I think it was a couple of years ago at this point. It was a hot minute. It's been a hot minute since we've had the Royal Crest or the forts brought into the game. And I'm glad for it, to be perfectly honest. I think all of Sea of Thieves needs to get slight updates, little changes here and there, kind of upgrades. Every single tavern looks relatively the same, and there's a familiarity there that I think is intended outside of like Port Merrick. Same thing with the clothing shops, the equipment shops, tools, if you will, and the weapon shops. Everything is very similar in Sea of Thieves. It's almost like somebody went out and they designed all of these different buildings. They sold the blueprints to the pirates, and the pirates followed the blueprints to a T, and nobody bothered to talk about kind of adding any flourish or anything outside of little trinkets in their shops that they came about when they were doing it. And looking at Royal Crest Fortress, I mean, it's a little ostentatious. Like, it's clear there's a narcissist at play here. And that narcissist is obviously Flameheart, who has decided to have the Order of Bone and Blade erect a statue of him at the entrance to Royal Crown Fortress. Which, I mean, the naming convention and the reason that it was picked, King Flame, it makes sense, right? There's obviously a little bit of ego at play here. But it was refreshing to actually go there and actually kind of take a look and see, like, there's working doors on a lot of the different areas for this fortress. And if I'm being honest, I really liked it. I think that Sea of Thieves could do with some more doors, especially with like the captain's cabin. There's 2 on there. Both have been rusted open since basically the galleons were made. And for some reason, every time you sink and the mermaids remake your galleon for you, and you spawn back on an island after obviously blacking out, and you go back to your galleon, those doors are still locked open as if by magic. And I'd like to see, Sea of Thieves play around with the idea of using doors in a more dynamic fashion outside of just insert vault key into rock, touch other rock, big rock, drop down. You have 2 minutes to loot vault before rock go back. I don't know why cavemen are the ones narrating all of this for you, but effectively something that's a little less serious, or not serious, but simple. Yeah, I guess simple would be the way that I'd go about it. And add some, dynamics to the different ships. I think that's something I think a lot of people have been wanting. And Rare's even commented about how they'd like to add varying ship styles to Sea of Thieves as opposed to the standard ones that we have now that everyone's used to, but who knows if that'll actually become part of the game. If they wanted to do something like that, it would probably discount pretty much all the cosmetics that we currently have, unless they took that into account, which who knows if they want to, because people have been playing this game for almost 8 years and have collected numerous and paid for quite a bit of cosmetics that if they didn't work on the same size ships or the new ships that they were to introduce because of different styles and just designs in general, and they didn't take it into account. You can blah blah blah, yada yada yada. You get the picture, right? So it's nice when you actually look at something like Royal Crest Fortress, and they've made some changes that I think are good changes. I think they're aesthetically interesting, and I'd like to see a little more variance and growth with Sea of Thieves in general. But maybe, you know, the Royal Crest Fortress being the first stab at this beyond, well, Port Merrick, which, let's be honest, many of us are still calling Golden Sands, right? Like we're still kind of not letting go Golden Sands just yet. Jack has not fallen to the depths of the ocean. We are still gripping very tightly onto him, hoping that salvation comes in the way of a rowboat. So I'm glad that they did this. I think it looks cool. I think it looks interesting. It is very interesting. One, that Flameheart is very invested in paintings right now. And the video that came out with McFarlane is great because, as always, does a fantastic job narrating, but throws in little script teasers in there to talk about how Flameheart is suddenly decided to care about paintings, or maybe there's something that's a little more interesting about one of these paintings that may not be fully understood for the time being, especially with the little line in there that talks about the fact that the smuggler's true purpose in Sea of Thieves is coming to fruition with this heist. So it remains to be seen who's stealing these paintings for what reason, and why they're of interest to begin with. And as always, us dumb pirates don't really care. We care about gold, and these things are worth quite a bit. In fact, the specific painting that you have to find within the fortress based on its name, and I will tell you right now that a lot of paintings are going to be gated, both physically and, well, I guess actually, yeah, just physically. A lot of them are gated physically. You have to go open the gates to them. But you have to find out what the name is, right? And then once you find that appropriate one, you can then take it, throw it on board, and you'll be able to go turn it into the smuggler that you were told to do that. No one is going to explicitly tell you where to go. You are going to actually have to take a look at the voyage, and it will have updated. And which is a weird thing in like magic paper. You'll have to check and see where you actually have to take it, which is why I'm recommending take a look and write out who's at what island for the smugglers, because being able to look at their name and know, okay, this person is on X island is going to be so much easier for you when you actually jump into this in the heat of the moment than looking at the ink blot test that they call an island silhouette to be able to know what island you're going to. Now, I will say Old Faithful, probably pretty easy. Same with Smuggler's Bay, but I don't know that those are going to be the ones that you have to turn it into when you're done, but it's probably going to be a lot easier to know, like, Starshine person, I can't remember their name actually. They were the ones that popped into my head. For Crooked Mast, easy to identify. It's 3 peaks. You know it. It's the worst island in the game, so you're already familiar with where not you usually go to enjoy the game. So looking at that silhouette, you're probably going to know, okay, I don't know what the person's name is there, but I can tell you right now, I know exactly what that horrible island looks like, even from a silhouette. And I'm going to say, like, yes, we will go there. Everyone else on board can take that painting in. I am not setting foot on that island. I do not like that island, and it's even worse now. They made it worse. I don't even understand why they thought making that island more of a pain in the butt was a good idea, but they did it. And you know what? Some of the hard choices in life come when you least expect it. And it's one of those times where I've had to go on Crooked Masts, and I felt a part of my soul just like being ripped away when I stepped foot on that island. I thought, yep, there is very much a reason why I don't come here. And it has a lot to do with the snakes. It has a lot to do with the spawn rates. The traps are not great right now. And the only thing I can really say is that it's nice to know that I can easily identify the bad guy in the room. You know, not often do you know who the bad guy is. I look at the map and I see that island and I'm like, yep, that's the bad guy right there. That's who we really should be fighting. So do yourself a favor, get a cheat sheet going with the smugglers' names and the islands that they're on. You'll thank me later, and go in and enjoy it. I did a quick one this weekend just to kind of get an idea of what it is. I like that they're giving you a key. I don't like that the key is something that is showing up on the map, because basically, from what I understand, you have to get the key from one person and go to the island that it's at, which is effectively 4 islands away. It's the same, and the destination that you have to turn it in is going to be different. There's another aspect to this that I didn't realize was going to be in this. When you get the painting, the target painting, and you bring it to your ship, there is a marker on that. Whenever it is on your ship, or whenever you are holding it, it will not show up on the map. And there's no indication on the map table or in the sky to tell you where you have to go, which is why you need to go and actually look at the voyage to tell you where you are going to go. I actually don't mind that so much. I think it's fine. It's weird that the painting itself has an icon on the map table, but only when the crew member that grabbed it is not in possession of it, or if it's not on the island. And the only thing I can think of is that this is to benefit the crews who lose it, the crews that have it stolen from them. That's the only thing I can think of that makes sense as to why you would want to have a map marker for this item. The key I can understand. The key is the grab to get to the island, or to get to the fortress and actually be able to hunt down this thing. So that key is going to be very important to start off on this voyage. If it's lost somehow, it's good to show up on the map so that you can actually tell what's going on. The treasure is another thing, but that's interesting all in of itself. People are going to have opinions about that, I'm sure. Having ocean crawlers appear on your ship, I don't know if this is tied to crew size, if it's tied to a timing, or if it's tied to a distance. There's a few factors involved with how often they spawn. My best guess is that it's based on time and crew size. The larger the crew size, the more you should probably have to worry about with the ocean crawlers that appear on your ship as a result of you having the painting. Why they care makes no sense. I have absolutely no idea why, except that from what I can tell, Flameheart has a deal with the sirens. That's the only reason I can really think of, is that Flameheart has a deal with the sirens that allows their members to go and try and retrieve the actual painting. Now they just hop on your boat and you got to fight them. I would actually like, this may be weird, I would actually like the NPCs to go for the painting. And this is never going to happen. But I will tell you right now, it would be pretty cool if ocean crawlers could climb up the ladder to the crow's nest to go get the painting that you stuffed up there to keep it safe. Or if they went below deck and tried to steal back the painting and jump off the edge of the water. And that's why you have a map marker on the painting when it is not on your ship or you are holding it, because a siren grabbed it and they're jumping off the ship, and you have to go back and you have to find them, and you have to jump in the water and fight sirens, or not sirens, ocean crawlers, to get the painting back. But we've never seen them in water. They've always been land creatures. Even though they pop up out of water and jump on your ship, they're never in the water. It's always sirens, right? So that would be my wish for this. If I were to, armchair develop, hold on, let me grab my armchairs. If I was to armchair develop, I would like to actually have the AI expanded upon, maybe, I don't know, concept here, just thinking stretch outside the box. We got these bad boys on islands that are able to take us to the X marks the spot, or the riddle. On islands, I think, AI is doing a good job here of getting improved. I think the skeleton AI has been upgraded with the bony boys. Got the nerds on islands. I think that's great. Wouldn't mind seeing ocean crawlers get a little bit of bump in that whole like artificial intelligence world. Make them a little bit smarter, give them the opportunity to know how to do something aside from jump on surface, attack. It's a little shallow. It's a little one-dimensional for NPCs. Not to say that I need them to start quoting Shakespeare and, throwing lines at me like there's some sort of Klingon trying to assert dominance on a Starfleet vessel during dinner. I'm just needing them to be a little more interesting than eel creature jumps on ship, starts charging lightning ball like it's a DBZ match, and half an hour later they don't even fire the lightning ball. So those are the kind of things that I think about when I'm looking at these kind of things. It's weird to kind of look at it and be like, I want it to be something it's not. But a lot of that is because I see what they did and I wonder how would I have gone about it if I had the time and opportunity to develop this. And for all intents and purposes, they had as much time as they needed. Who knows when they started working on Smuggler's content for the game. They clearly had it for a while, but I would have liked to have had them reach out to the team that does the engineering around the enemy AI and see just what we can do about improving the combat for people so that, yeah, when you get rared, it feels bad because you feel like you're getting attacked by an onslaught of things that just happen to hit the timing right instead of actually having like compelling fights, right? The compelling fights that we get at most are going to be from like skeleton lords or ashen lords or named lords of evil that you have to fight. It's rarely ever like the menial guys, like the henchmen that are out there not getting the benefits they deserve, not getting the pension plan they were promised, trying to do something that for all intents and purposes, minimum wage, minimum work. These guys are not getting a whole lot out here. And to be perfectly honest, if I was paid whatever Flameheart or the Sirens are paying me to hop up on a ship after I'd been cursed into an ocean crawler, I'd probably be like, you know what? It may take me a while to charge up this lightning ball. Is that my fault? No. Should have maybe invested a little bit more in my powers, made me a little bit smarter, a little more powerful. Maybe I'd be able to conjure this lightning ball that you want me to attack these, for all intents and purposes, pirates that I've never crossed or had any issue with. All for what? A badly made Mona Lisa? Somebody accidentally magic erasered the face on Flameheart on one of these paintings and took a Sharpie to it and they said it's still magical. It brings joy to my life. You want me to attack them for that? There's just certain things that I would love to see, but that's not necessarily what we're getting. What we're getting is an experience that is not focusing on the PvE nature of this. This is something that is going to drive the PvP. And I think to the success of the forts getting the 15 Ashen Athena chests, there is something about bringing players together in adventure that is just thrilling. There's a sense of, I don't know what to expect. Any ship that comes in could be any skill level at all, and they could have a vast majority of the tools or completely stock supplies. And you never really know what to expect, because there's no way to really, pin out who's who on Sea of Thieves, especially with a lot of the people kind of hiding their ship names and their actual names in game. So unless you come across a name that for sure is someone important, former NAL player, and to be perfectly honest, you're going to see them coming. Yeah, you're going to see those sales. You would do well to know those sales. And if you honestly, to be perfectly honest, if you see those sales coming in, unless you already have a pretty decent amount of time in the game that you're like, yeah, I could probably handle my own, maybe just dive to another server. maybe just think to yourself, am I truly invested in this heist? Is this heist going to be the thing that absolutely defines my future for the rest of time? Or could I maybe just take another 10 minutes out of my night and jump to a different server? Because I'm probably not going to win to NALs or Sea of Thieves champions. That's probably just not going to happen. So, cut your losses. Don't waste time on something that you could win, but inevitably is going to be futile. I'm just saying, like, there's better times, better use of your time sometimes. But overall, looking at at what we're getting and knowing that not much is probably going to change, there's probably going to be some tweaks that did not show up in insiders that they are working on as far as like a day one patch. I do hope that the patch goes in smoothly, because it always inevitably happens where Sea of Thieves puts out an update, typically towards the third week of the month. And that update usually comes with a, hey, servers are coming down. Servers are down. Servers are back up. Please update your game. And when you do so, you go in and you play and you play and you play. At some point within the first 24 hours, typically, there is usually the quote unquote, we are aware of, and then issue, right? So when you get in Thursday, just bear in mind, stuff may not count. Stuff may not process. If you're going to play and you want everything to count, I would recommend holding off on Thursday and give Rare an opportunity to address the we are aware issue that will inevitably come as a result of the update. Whether it's in the first 8 hours, you never know. Whenever it comes in the first 24 hours, you never know. Sometimes it's so late that people are just like, oh, that bug is back. Oh, well, I'm sure there will be an update at some point to address it. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. I think it's going to be a very interesting week. I think there are going to be a lot of streamers that are going to be jumping in, and it's International Talk Like a Pirate Day this week on September 19th. And the nice thing about this is that there is going to be that sale that I talked about last week. If you wanted to get an idea of what's going to go on sale as far as like the Pirate Emporium, they have that information available. But just as a reminder, and this is kind of a nice thing, there's been a little bit of confusion about the upcoming Twitch drops that are going to go live from September 19th to September 26th, which is a week long. For that, you have 6 hours worth of content to pay attention to. 30 minutes will get you 75 grand, which is not bad. I'll tell you right now. And actually, before I get into that, the Smuggler's Heist. Before I get into the Twitch drops, I do have to say there is one thing about this event that I'm not too big a fan of. I don't think it'll be a big issue, but it is funny to me that they are doing this. And that is, if you participate in any of the heists, if you jump in and work towards any of the heists, if you don't complete them, you'll actually get a painting that you can hang up that shows like some kind of engineering schematics for Royal Crown Fortress. And it's, it's just a nice little like, hey, put that up on your captain ship, and you'll be able to say like, hey, this was an exclusive item that I got when I participated in the Smuggler's Heist, right? The completion for all of the different aspects of Act 2 in the seasonal section there on the menu. So you go to the seasonal section, you'll see Act 1, you'll see Act 2. The rewards for Act 2, if you complete all of them, give you another painting that shows the changes as a schematic to Royal Crown Fortress, including the statue of Flameheart. The interesting thing that I find here is a small thing. I don't think a lot of folks are going to be impacted by it, but it does kind of make me think that Rare is already kind of assuming that most people probably have a captain's ship. And this is not the first time they've done this, but it's the first time that I've realized it. They are giving us captaincy rewards for all pirates who participate in the game. If you complete all of the stuff in the second act of the seasonal content, you'll get rewards that you can use on your captaincy ship. But not everyone has captaincy. That's not hard. And I would argue that the target painting being worth 175,000 gold, it does put a good chunk of change in your pocket if you have not purchased a captaincy ship. Now, the rub here is that, say you are a fresh pirate, say you find out about the smuggler's heist and you want to participate. You complete a voyage and you get all of the cosmetics that are associated with Act 2 seasonal content, completing a voyage, selling a painting, doing what you're supposed to do to just normally engage with that event. You get 2 captaincy items for that. And it's so strange to me that I never picked up on this, but that other people are going to be getting cosmetics and not be able to use them, not be able to even display them. And that the 175,000 gold reward for this painting to turn into one of the smugglers, you would still need to do at least 2 victories on the heist to be able to afford just a sloop, because a sloop is 250 grand, which means you could be working towards getting your first captaincy ship and get into the game, earn rewards that you can't display outside of the tavern, to be perfectly honest, and still have to do at least 2 victories before you could earn enough gold to be able to buy a captaincy ship to display the rewards that you got for completing it to all of the different checkboxes, right? You would have to do this at least 3 times to get a brig, and you'd have to do a whopping 4 heists to be able to earn enough gold from the target painting to afford a $500,000 or 500,000 gold coin galleon captaincy ship. At least 4 of these voyages, which could be highly contested at launch for the next month, to be able to get a galleon and then display these rewards. So I thought it was interesting. It's one of those things where I think Rare is leaning too heavily into captaincy as their reward system, where we used to get weapons, we used to get ship cosmetics, we used to get pirate cosmetics on the reg. This was like, if you go back and you look, there was a bomb event that was in promotion. Ironically enough, it was in promotion of Borderlands 3, and you got a full Borderlands with claptrap figurehead just for completing the event. That was what they used to do. Nowadays, they've got a month-long event, and you get 2 paintings, and they're similar style too. One's for the participation reward, the other one's for the completion reward. And I think it's so interesting to me that they are going with captaincy rewards as a way to try and give players something that is unique. But for all intents and purposes, most people aren't really going on to other people's galleons or brigs or sloops and looking around being like, golly gee, it's a shame this painting's going to end up at the bottom of the ocean after I sink this crew, because I love what they've done with the place. The feng shui is fantastic. They truly have understood the assignment when it comes to designing their ship. And I think now is a good time to say, sir, I will have to murder you one more time to get this vessel underwater. But I have to say, you've done an amazing job with the space. It truly does come together. It's weird. Maybe it's just me. I'm sure many people don't care. I'm sure probably a lot of people have never even considered it, because it took me years. It took me till now. I was born yesterday. It took me till now to figure out that they were even doing rewards as captaincy. And there are people that don't have captaincy, and they may not even want or understand the system enough to save up the gold to be able to do it. Having the target item being worth 175 grand will probably go towards other stuff outside of captaincy. That people will probably be buying stuff that they want to buy, that are either clothing or equipment or weapons or ship livery sets or Athena items or dark adventure stuff. Like, it's probably I don't think anyone is going to maybe not any. I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but you get my intention here. I don't think anyone's going to run over to the shipwright and be like, I can finally do it. Let's get those items. I've been waiting to get this captain's cabin set up just the way I want it. And I cannot wait to just put every single fish I possibly can on all the little places, even the places that are not intended. And you know, if I could turn everything into the trophy fishes that I've gotten, that would be even better. I would happily stuff fish onto the little shelf if I could. So I'm glad that this heist was made available so that I could earn enough gold to be able to justify buying all of the little trinkets that I've earned over the years on the different grades that they've been. I don't see people doing that. And if you are doing that, and it's not because I'm saying something, I'm genuinely curious. I'm genuinely curious what it was that you've been eyeballing at the shipwright for so long that it has still been out of reach for you, that this heist has finally gotten you the type of cash that you wanted outside of a community weekend and just playing the game normally, that you were able to sit there and be like, oh man, I didn't think I was ever going to be able to get that hourglass and the little bust of Flameheart, but it's a different day. And thank you to that painting for being so valuable for whatever reason. There are some other things that I do want to make sure that everyone is aware of. And this kind of goes back to the Twitch drops thing. So Twitch drops, as talked about in the video that came out as far as the Sea of Thieves news video that was, I believe on the 11th, that actually talked about having to go and watch partners for the Twitch drops, which is then clarified a day later to make sure that if you want to get the Twitch drops, you can actually get them from watching any Sea of Thieves stream. Does not mean that you have to watch a partner in specific. This is something that has kind of been interesting because they've been going back and forth on this, and I do think that, again, I'm going to champion my own idea because it's my idea. And what's the point of having a podcast if I'm not trying to throw ideas out into the pool of knowledge for people to pick up and use as they will, twist, manipulate as best it works for the system. But going back and forth between any streamer and partners only and any streamer and partners only, if it was a rotation, that would feel like it would make more sense. It has been very kind of haphazard and arbitrary. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter what type of event it is. If there's Twitch drops, it could be either. And there's a confusion behind that, which even just goes to say that there is confusion between the video production team and the community management team on the Twitch drops being for just partners, like announced in the actual video, which is going to get a lot of traction compared to the Discord event that was pushed out recently that stated that any participating Sea of Thieves stream is eligible to be able to provide 6 hours worth of Twitch drops for Sea of Thieves players. Now, I understand that companies have different things going on. There's emails, there's meetings, there's miscommunication, errors in script, copied script from past stuff, but it does not look good. And that's a shame because it shows that there's not a uniform agreement on how these things should be done. There's no Bible or process guide currently being used that says, okay, for community weekend, we are going to do it so that everyone gets the benefit of using the drops because it is a community focused event. Outside of that, we are going to enrich the program that we kicked up, which is the Build Rat program, by offering some of the lower tier items in the Twitch drops, considering there are, 8 different things that you can get, whether it be gold, renown, voyages, what have you. Offering some of those, let's take 4, give them the voyage, the voyage of luck, the specific voyage for whatever it is, like they usually have a specific one, the level of renown, and the gold. Let's give that to the Build Rats when it's not community weekend and we are doing ones to promote and support the content creators that we are putting under our wing, that we are Sherping in this program to help connect with the community. Let's give them the lower 4 of that. Anyone can watch them and earn those. Otherwise, people can go and earn all 8 by watching partners. Now, there are not as many partners playing Sea of Thieves as there were back in the heyday of when partners were a very big part of the community streaming, when partners were the only way that you could get Twitch drops. And the Twitch drops weren't just kind of recolors of a lot of the Eastern Wind sets. They were unique stuff about that, you know? So looking at what they've done a good job of trying to bring old content with a couple new things and some stretch goals if they want, and add those to the new revamped version of the Twitch drops. Now, I appreciate what they've done with that system, but they aren't executing it on a way that really does kind of take into account the full breadth of content creators that they are enlisting. There's no way for build rats outside of the Gilded Phoenix content that they are currently getting as giveaways to address getting Twitch drops outside of when it's for everyone. And when it's for everyone, it's harder to you know, like point to build rats and be like, this is a build rat, you should go watch them. Well, why would I want to watch them? I can watch anyone. It doesn't matter who I watch. I can get the Twitch drops there. Yeah, but they're trying to be better, you know, with the build, like they're trying to build a community as a build rat. You know, they want to get a partner, and it's kind of hard when there's nothing that's really emphasizing that outside of the giveaways for the Gilded Phoenix, which are not communicated outside of when the build rats give you that information. As far as I know, I have, and you know, I could be wrong about this. I'm always willing to be wrong about this because I'm not watching everything everywhere all the time. So it could have been a forum post where they said, hey, build rats are going to be giving away Gilded Phoenix content every single month. They're going to get an allowance of what they can give away, and they're going to be doing it in their own way. So you can check in with the different build rats to find out what their way of giving away their Gilded Phoenix content is, and you can go and try and actually get that content. I know I've been trying to get the Gilded Phoenix ship crest. It's like one of the last things I need for that set. So looking at the Twitch drops, this is going to be something, going back to this is going to be something that is available for anyone who streams Sea of Thieves to be able to offer the Twitch drops. What's involved? Again, we'll go over it real quick. 30 minutes is going to get you 75,000 gold. 1 hour is going to get you a level of renown, which I'm looking at some of you don't care. Fine. After an hour and a half, you're going to get a new Voyage of Luck, which if you haven't used the one from Community Weekend, maybe now's a good time to jump on that. Do a quick dive, spend 30 minutes, get whatever it is, turn it in, reap the benefits, put your thumb up, and, you know, look for the next one. 2 hours is going to get you the Eastern Winds Ruby Blunderbuss. Now, remember, the Ruby stuff is fresh for the anniversary of Rare, as far as I recall. Then after 3 hours, which is, you know, an hour more, you get the Gilded Voyage of the Ancient Isles, which is going to be that one that takes you from, was it Snake to Thieves to Shark Bait, I think. And then it's going to basically kick you out to some of the islands out in the Ancient Isles. Again, there are going to be people hunting out there, so just be aware of that. Then after 4 hours, you're going to get the Gilded Phoenix Shovel, which I feel like that one is a repeat as well, too, because I'm pretty sure I've already got that one. Then after 5 hours is going to be the fresh thing, the new thing, the Amethyst Mercenary Boots. And then after 6 hours, if you have not gotten these for some way or another, the Mandrake Figurehead will be available for Twitch drops. And again, this is something that's going out to everyone where, you know, again, mixed messaging. The community team said it's everyone. The video team said it was partners. So the best thing to really do is kind of go to your streamer of choice, take a look at the drop progress, make sure that it is updating, that you are getting credit, especially once you get that first 30 minutes, make sure that you get that gold. If everything looks peachy keen, then sure enough, everyone was available to drop for that. And it was just automatically turned on and you didn't have to worry about it. Otherwise, keep an eye out for your favorite partner. Hard to say what's going to be the truth of the matter until it actually happens, but we won't know till Talk Like a Pirate Day. It's Friday. It's Talk Like a Pirate Day's Friday. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about, and I apologize, I had to turn on my AC because it was getting a little stuffy in here, is Sea of Thieves Fest news. Now, as you guys may know, Sea of Thieves Fest has been going on annually now for 4 or 5 years. I think it's been, gosh, you know what? Now I feel like an idiot for not actually remembering, but I'm pretty sure it's 5 years with this next one coming up. So what I'm going to say is that they have announced the dates. It is July 10th and July 11th. So 4 and 5 days after my birthday. It is going to be in Bescott Stadium in Walsall, and tickets go on sale Friday, September 26th at 3 p.m. The ticket prices are as follows. For the after party, which is only for adults, is going to be £15. VIP is going to be £70. Weekend adult only is going to be £55. The weekend child is going to be £30. Saturday adult is going to be £40. Saturday child is going to be £20. Friday adult is going to be £30. And Friday child is going to be £20. And if you want to get the Sea of Thieves Fest 5 Mango Wood Tankard, there are only 100 available. There's limit 1 per order, and it is £20. So early bird promo code is going to be running until September 28th at 7 p.m. This is all Eastern Standard Time, by the way. So if you want to save $5 per ticket, excluding the after party and the tankard, you use the early bird promo code, just early bird, one word, all capitals, and you'll be able to get that $5 off per ticket. So I do not believe I'm going to be able to make it out to the Sea of Thieves Fest, as I am still recouping from the very large, costly move that happened this year. Even knowing that next year I will probably have more PTO, it is one of those things where I'm going to be cautious and know that if anything that comes up emergency wise, I might need to take care of, that I won't be setting myself up with too much debt. So I will probably look forward to the next Sea of Thieves Fest for 2026. Yeah, 2020. No, this is the 2026. God, what is the time? So probably not 2026, probably 2027 if I get a chance. Because I wouldn't mind actually making like an actual European trip to go for like more than a week. That is going to require a lot of help from people who probably aren't going to be going as well too, though. All right, pirates, that is going to do it for this episode of Keelhauled Podcast. If you guys enjoyed it, definitely feel free to like, subscribe the YouTube version, share it with friends, or just head over to the reviews on your podcatcher of choice and share whatever review you think is worthy of this podcast. I've been doing it a while, so I'm always open to feedback to kind of know where folks are liking the content or not liking the content, but hopefully you are enjoying the content enough to share it with others, because I think at the end of the day, that's really the thing that does the most for podcasts, is telling other people about it. But effectively, if you guys enjoyed this content, you're always welcome to join up on the Keelhauled Podcast Discord server. As I was trying to get Affiliate Alliance, they did decline based on the number of members and not the niche aspect of that. So I do have to have over 1,000 members on there. Discord servers are weird though. I know a lot of folks don't like to join them because then you start getting a ton of little like pop-up notifications or just like little notifications on your Discord line. And for a lot of people, myself included, I tend to use those unread like notifications as ways to kind of check in on Discords. But I know a lot of people that just mute Discords in general. So I don't blame you if you don't feel like jumping into another Discord, or if you're not even comfortable with Discord. I don't blame you either. A lot of reasons to not like it, a lot of reasons to like it, but as always, it is a place that folks are using to communicate and chat and hang out with in the Keelhauled community. So if you're listening to this and you want to jump in, more than welcome to jump in. I'm usually trolling or lurking around somewhere on there. So if you guys want to talk to me, that's probably going to be the best way to reach out. Outside of that, pirates, that is going to do it for this episode. Please make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Please enjoy this upcoming update, and don't, if things are getting a little too stressful, take a break. Give yourself that opportunity. Maybe find some ice cream. Maybe that ice cream was from a child. Maybe that child probably is better off without ice cream. That's all I'm saying. So with that, pirates, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.